Whether you've made it tonight or you've tuned in at home, I wanted to welcome you all to Edwardstown Baptist Church tonight. Really excited to hear the word and to worship God with you all. So with that in mind, let's turn it over to the band and begin to worship God.
Why don't you stand and sing with us? Who breaks the power? Who breaks the power of sin and darkness? Whose love is mighty and so much stronger? The King of glory, the King above all kings. Who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder? Who leaves us breathless in awe and wonder? The King of glory, the King above all kings. Receive amazing grace. This is a failing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Sing it, brings our chaos. Who brings our chaos back into order? Who makes the orphan a son and daughters? The King of glory, the King of glory, who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance. The King of glory. take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Sing, worthy is the Lamb. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy, worthy, worthy. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Whoa, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me.
In the darkness we were waiting, without hope, without light, till from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes, to fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin came the word, from a throne of endless glory, to a cradle in the dirt. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. To reveal the kingdom coming, and to reconcile the lost, to redeem the whole creation. You did not despise the cross, for even in your suffering you saw to the other side, knowing this was our salvation. Jesus, for our sake you died. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. Morning that you rose, all of heaven held its breath, till that stone was moved for good, for the Lamb had conquered death. And the dead rose from their tombs, and
Father, I thank you that you brought us here tonight. I thank you that you as a father love us as a child, and we are yours always. We thank you for what your son done on the cross, as he died for our sins. We thank you for your spirit that reminds us about your good grace day in and day out. And as we continue to worship, may that spirit lead us and of awareness of your presence here tonight. Sing worthy. Worthy of every song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes and wonder, and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart, and lead me in your love to those around me. I sing worthy of every song. Worthy of every song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes and wonder. Show me who you are, and fill me with your heart, and lead me in your love to those around me. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder, and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart, and lead me in your love to those around me. Singing, I will build, and I will build my life upon as we sit in this moment, I encourage you to shut your eyes and pray to God. Use your own words. Let's sit in this moment and pray in your own time and say your own words to our God. Sing, I will build. And I will build my life upon your love. Is a firm foundation. And I will build. Will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be. And I will build, and I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken, and I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken.
Amen. That was so good. I just wanted to welcome you guys again, for those of you who have rocked up midway through worship, or if you've jumped on to the stream since then. Welcome. It's so good to see you all here tonight, and I'm really excited for what Trav Dad is going to bring to us tonight. Before I get into that, I wanted to talk about a bit about what I'm doing as Young Adults Director in the last couple of weeks or so. I'm really trying to start to put a pulse on the young adult ministry and what you guys have been enjoying, what you guys need. And so I think the tech team are going to put a QR code next to me somewhere. And they're also going to put it onto the Facebook page. If you're a young adult, or if you're feeling particularly young, there's a survey there about the Young Adults Ministry that I would love as many people as possible to fill out, because if you do, that helps me get more of an insight into what you guys need. Like I said, we're going to be hearing from Trav tonight, and he's going to be taking us through Mark 2 as we continue our series on discomfort and God working through the discomfort, even though it may not always feel good. I'm really excited to see what Dad brings to us tonight. With that in mind, I wanted to read out the passage that he's going to be reading us tonight, which is Mark 2, verses 13 to 17. Yeah, that's right. Cool. Let me read that out for you guys, and then after that, we'll go straight to the giving video. Another time, Jesus was walking alongside the Sea of Galilee, teaching the gathering crowd as he went. He saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus, sitting at the booth where he collected taxes. Jesus called out to him, "Follow me, Levi." Follow me. Levi left the booth and went along with him. At Levi's house, many tax collectors and other sinners, Jews who did not keep the strict purity laws of the Jewish holy text, were dining with him, Jesus and his other disciples. Jesus had attracted such a large following that all kinds of people surrounded him. When the Pharisees' scribes saw who shared the table with Jesus, they were quick to criticize. They said, "If your master is such a righteous person, then why does he eat and drink with tax collectors and sinners, the worst among us?" Jesus heard them and said to them, "People who have their health don't need to see the doctor. Only those who are sick do. I'm not here to call those already in good standing with God. I'm here to call sinners to turn back to him." Let's give it to the giving video.
Your generosity helps us bless our local community, help the needy, and supports both our local and international missionaries. Go to ebc.org.au/give. Here are some quick, easy, and safe options to give. Join us on our Get.Generous platform by clicking on this link and follow the prompt. You can set up giving through your card or use the text to give option. Simply text GIVE space $amount to 0438 836 306 and follow the prompt to complete the process. Direct debit is also available. You may be already doing this, just like 73% of our church family. Through your partnership and generosity, we continue to make a difference in the lives of people, and together we can continue to worship God through our generosity.
Hello, everybody. Let's try that again. Hello, everybody. That's not bad. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. I'm super excited to be here. Last week, I visited another church and spoke at this church, and they'd been visiting, gathering together a couple of times, and there's still this reticence, right? There's like 2 rows behind these people and the next people, and there's reticence to come together. And some people there's a sense where people weren't sure how to do being together in the same room. Some people would kind of avoid you and wave, which is probably the right thing to do. Sometimes people will do elbow bumps, but I believe that that's not part of the practice here. Is that right, Dale?
I can't comment on that.
Okay, so for fear of, what do you... Self-incrimination, okay. But anyway, one of the older guys from this church, hadn't seen them for a long time, and we did some work together some years ago. He comes right up to me and takes my hand, gives me a good handshake, and it's kind of just what he did. And I had this moment of conflict, so I'm confessing this to you. This is time of confession. I had this moment of conflict. Do I pull back? I just went in for the handshake. I know, right? Yeah, so self-incrimination. Fortunately, there was a bottle of hand sanitizer right by me, and I did this whole, did the hands. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I've been feeling like Mr. Humblefloob. Anybody know who? Yeah, Mr. Humblefloob. Have you heard of him? So Mr. Humblefloob is one of the first characters that you are introduced to in the movie. Does anybody else know what I'm talking about right now? No? Okay, that's not unusual, by the way. In the movie Cat in the Hat. And so the opening scene of the movie Cat in the Hat, Mr. Humblefloob, who's a real estate agent, right, calls a meeting, everybody, it's 9:02 a.m, staff meeting, so everybody needs to gather together. And there's this image of all the staff, so Mr. Humblefloob, if you haven't worked out by now, is like this germaphobe. All the staff have to run away from the hand washing sinks, so the instruction is employees must wash hands at all times. And he introduces the new employee, whose name is Jim, and I've lost it because Matt Adams was putting me off about this name before, but Jim Mook something, and he introduces him, and so the new employee, what he does is he grabs his hand, and does anybody know what happens next? Okay. Who can tell me what happens next to Jim McFlinigan? It's McFlinigan, that's who it is. Jim McFlinigan. What happens to Jim McFlinigan? Anybody seen this movie? Did you have something, Saxon? Oh, you're just stretching. Okay, sorry. Yes, Epiphany. He's fired, but he's not just fired. He's fired like that. Anyway, so I've had moments where I've felt like Mr. Humberfloob, and I'm just mentioning that. I don't know about you, but there's moments like that where it feels like there's uncertainty as to how we relate with one another. We've been disrupted society-wise, I suppose. I've had other conversations with people where I've lent in because I think I'm getting a little deaf as I get older, and I've lent in to hear them, and I've watched them back away, because of that social distancing thing. And so we're experiencing not just the disruption of pandemic, but experiencing the disruption of how do we do humanity? What's this look like? And so I feel like it's actually a really helpful theme for us to be thinking through. And it's one of the things that I've been asking of this passage in Mark chapter 2. So if it's Jesus who disrupts me, what's with that? Because he was actually pretty disruptive. What's it look like for Jesus to disrupt? What does disruption from Jesus look like? Now I'm going to read this again. And what I'd like to do is invite you to think about the different characters in this story. What's motivating them? How are they responding in this particular interchange of the scriptures? What's behind their responses? And I'm going to ask you to think about the settings in this reading as well. What's it like at each of these settings? There's actually 3 settings that we're just going to simply wander through tonight. What's it like at each of these settings? If these were familiar places or familiar settings for you, what kind of memories might have been forged at these places? So I'm going to read this out again. So Mark 2 from verse 13. Another time, Jesus was out walking alongside the Sea of Galilee. So another time means that there's been some things that have happened before now. What actually happened was it was in a house in the village of Capernaum, and 4 friends you might be familiar with this story, but 4 friends had brought their mate to Jesus, and they dug a hole in the roof because the house was crowded, and they lowered him before them, and he healed them. And there was this interchange between Jesus and the religious scholars at that point in time. Before that, there was a time when Jesus actually healed a leper as well, and he kind of told him not to go tell anybody. And what did the leper do? He went and told everybody. So there's this massive gathering happening around Jesus. And so after that, it was the healing in the house. And when we say another time, that's what's in our heads. Another time, Jesus was out walking out alongside the Sea of Galilee. And of course, no, Capernaum was actually by the sea. It was like a fishing village, right? In fact, if you could imagine a village of about 1,500 people, so the size of like a really large high school is the type of crowd that we're dealing with in Capernaum. Another time, Jesus was out walking alongside the Sea of Galilee. For the 3rd time, Travis, just do the reading. Sea of Galilee, teaching the gathering crowd as he went. He saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus, sitting at the booth where he collected taxes. He saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus, sitting at the booth where he collected taxes. Jesus called out to him, "Follow me." Levi left the booth and went along with him. At Levi's house, many tax collectors and other sinners, Jews who did not keep the strict purity laws of the Jewish holy texts, were dining with Jesus and his disciples. And Jesus had attracted such a large following that all kinds of people surrounded him. When the Pharisees' scribes saw who shared the table with Jesus, they were quick to criticize. And they said to Jesus' disciples, "If your master is such a righteous person, then why does he eat and drink with tax collectors and sinners, the worst among us?" And Jesus heard them. He said to the scribes, "People who have their health don't need to see a doctor. Only those who are sick do. I'm not here to call those already in good standing with God. I'm here to call sinners to turn back to him." And so, Father, we simply ask that you would speak this story into our lives tonight, that you would find us where we are, and that you would remind us of something, teach us something new, and draw us into just an increasing, ever-changing relationship with you. In Jesus' name. So we've often thought of this passage through the lens of the Pharisees, and we do spend a lot of time in that last verse often. But what I want to do is simply take this story through the experience of Levi, who is also known as Matthew. Levi, it says he's the son of somebody. Does anybody remember who he's the son of? He's the son of Alphaeus. Now, we don't know who Alphaeus is, but Mark, who's writing this, probably did, right? And so when he calls Levi by name, he calls him the son of someone. And what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that he was known. He was actually known in this community. He belonged to this family. He grew up in this, particular street corner. He went to this, this is where he sat in the synagogue. But now Levi or Matthew, as like either a teenager or a mid-20s or a grown man, he's known to be sitting in this place, in this booth. So he's known. And so we're thinking about Levi's experience. So verse 13 and 14, I just want to quickly read that through again. Another time Jesus was out walking alongside the Sea of Galilee, teaching the gathering crowd as he went. So he's walking and teaching. He saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus. So the booth that Levi's at is most likely by the Sea of Galilee, right? He's sitting at the booth where he collected taxes. Jesus calls out to him, "Follow me." Levi left the booth and went along with him. Disruption. So taxes were collected at this booth, and it's understood as we look back that taxes were people were to give taxes to people like Levi at booths like this, and so there were taxes on imports and exports. Merchants, so people who were from other lands, were of particular interest, but also local markets. So the use of the Greek word here may indicate that Matthew was at a booth for taxing goods in transit. And what I wonder about is if the people who are walking with Jesus, who some of them were fishermen, I'm wondering whether they knew this particular spot because that's where they had to pay over some sort of goods or money because they were taking fish from the sea, perhaps up to the market in Capernaum. I've not been to Capernaum. If somebody has, then let me know afterwards. But that's the picture I'm getting, right? And so there's this weirdness going on because Jesus has already called the fishermen to follow him. Now he's calling the who? He's calling the tax collector. Are you serious? Give me a break. I really got into this tax collecting thing, not me personally. I was just researching. I'm just saying that. But another concept here is that there was tax farming involved. And so a tax collector could be either an independent contractor with the Roman government, or he was paid so they paid a fee to Rome to obtain the right to extract taxes from people in a certain area, with an added fee for the collector and his employees. Or he might have also been a tax collector for Herod Antipas. And so there were levels and layers. He might be working for someone who has a contract with somebody else, and so he's caught in the middle. And maybe he's been cornered into the situation. So there's all sorts of levels of power involved, right? But here's Levi at the tax booth, despised by everyone, except perhaps by other tax collectors. And the leaders saw tax collectors as traitors for collecting revenue that left their nation, and the citizens resented them from benefiting from the proceeds that caused poverty among their own people. When Jesus came to Levi, it was clear that he was centre stage in his own compromise. You ever been there? Centre stage in your own compromise? What's your booth? A place where you find yourself engaging in easily justifiable activity that harms not only the people around you, but harms your own soul. Behind the wheel of your car. In a coffee shop where conversation shifts from genuine concern to a hunger for powerful information. In front of a screen What's your booth? When I choose to betray that which is right, I inadvertently cause harm and I invite the judgment of others. Some is expected, so the other disciples, you'd expect like some sort of judgment. But some is kind of projected. So it might be like in this instance, the Pharisees or the religious leaders, where they were projecting their own harm that they were bringing to others onto a tax collector. So I inadvertently cause harm when I am in this midst of compromise, but I also incrementally numb my conscience to the harm that's been inflicted upon my own soul. And this is when Jesus disrupts me. When Jesus calls. Jesus calls when I'm compromised. He doesn't wait for me to clean myself up. He shows up when it's obvious I'm in desperate need of his disruption. I wonder if you can hear his voice in your booth. Verse 15. So at Levi's house, many tax collectors and other sinners, Jews who did not keep the strict purity laws of the Jewish holy text, were dining with Jesus and his disciples. Jesus had attracted such a large following that all kinds of people surrounded him. And so we moved from the booth to the house of Jesus, of Levi. And so when Levi is in this house and others come upon Levi's invitation and request to be in his house, remember that this feast was held in a home that was built upon the oppression of others, corruption of those in the room, and conspiracy with a foreign power. And so when as a fisherman stepped into this house, I was surrounded by that. I was surrounded by the incongruity, and that's not the best word to use in a sermon, by the way, because it's like the shortest 5-syllable word that you can come up with. But I'm surrounded by the incongruity of the host. That, yeah, sure, he's hosting me, but he's only able to do so because he has pretty much stolen from me and from my community. This feast brought together those who knew rejection, interestingly as well, and then community was found among the alienated. And so we have this weird kind of environment where it was it was incongruous. And when Jesus feasted with Matthew, he did so in this mess. The environment was complicated. He invited Jesus to meet his friends, but he and his friends, Levi invited Jesus to bring his friends, but Levi and his friends had oppressed Jesus' friends. You ever been there? You're kind of wanting to be a good host for God, but nothing you have to offer is untainted by the brokenness of the world around you or the brokenness that's within. Like you just don't feel good enough. You don't feel right about this. And if you put a magnifying glass on the decisions that you've made in order for you to be able to host, like it kind of opens your soul up for some inspection. Incongruence. Some say that I shouldn't need to feel guilty about the privilege afforded me as a white Australian male. But it's hard not to, not just because of media popularism, but because 6 generations or 184 years ago, my ancestors settled in South Australia and carved out a hard-earned living on the land, and it's something I'm extremely grateful for. But it's also true that they did so on a set of assumptions toward the First Nations people that were at best ignorant. And so I enjoy benefits now that I'm both thankful for, but I'm also uneasy about. Incongruence. And if we peel back the layers of our lives and our stories, I'm pretty sure that all of us would find some sort of incongruence in our story. I'm thankful for this, But I also recognize this. Jesus disrupts and embraces me in my incongruity. Somehow he takes me at face value in my sincerity. He opens my eyes to incongruence, and then he invites me into joining him in making his world right. Could you imagine that room? Could you imagine the stories that the fishermen shared with the tax collector over the next 3 years? Can you imagine the invitation that Jesus is giving us and disrupting our world perhaps, but giving us right now to walk with him and see his world made right in ways we never may have anticipated? Because he embraces us, he feasts with us in our incongruity. Verses 16 and 17. When the Pharisees, scribes saw who shared the table with Jesus, they were quick to criticize. They said to his disciples, "If your master is such a righteous person, then why does he eat and drink with tax collectors and sinners, the worst among us?" Jesus heard them. Just get that for a moment. They're kind of nattering away in the disciples' ears, but Jesus hears them. And Jesus says to the scribes, "People who have their health don't need to see a doctor, only those who are sick. I'm not here to call those already in good standing with God. I'm here to call sinners to turn back to him." The New Living Translation says it this way beautifully: "Healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do. I have come to call not those who think they are righteous, but those who know they are sinners, those who know they are not, those who are honest with themselves." And so we've talked about Levi in the booth, right? We've talked about in the house. Now we're around this table, eating together. And at this table, Levi was exposed to the ridicule of the detractors that were, possibly sitting outside the window or peering in to this house. Maybe some of them were inside the courtyard. And so Levi was both exposed to the ridicule of detractors, but he was also experiencing intimacy with Jesus and community around him. Levi was vulnerable, experiencing intimacy, but also exposed to criticism. Association with Jesus brings intimacy, but it also exposes me to ridicule. And herein lies the risk and wonder of following Jesus. An honest posture toward my own brokenness and sin, or even the story of brokenness that I'm inadvertently a part of, exposes me to ridicule from others, but it also opens up a table where I experience an unconditional welcome. I'm invited into an intimacy I may never have known before, but one which I have always been designed for, at the table with God. How cool is that picture? Jesus disrupts and affirms me in the midst of my vulnerability. He advocates for me. Had a pretty cool moment just before singing away, and Chloe comes up to me and says, "I saw you at church this morning." I couldn't hear her because Bailey was just so awesomely loud. So did you notice that, Bailey? Awesomely loud. Yeah. But I saw you at church this morning, and the last few weeks we've been running this hub in Junction where a few people are able to gather together, and it's provided a really good space of being able to connect with each other and get to know one another more, know each other by name, that sense of openness and intimacy where people are taking the risk of being together in the same room. And it's been really cool just to meet together, catch up, pray for each other, jump in on the stream. I have to admit, Dale, we probably, most people have coffee by about midway through the second song. And so, but by about then we're engaged. But it's really cool. There's a sense where there's opportunities like that where we can enter into community with each other, where we can meet around table together. Part of Jesus' disruption, it exposes us, and there's vulnerability and we're at risk of being criticised, but also opens us up to perhaps a type of intimacy and relationship that we've been designed for that we sometimes forget about. So Jesus is calling us in the midst of compromise at the booth. He's dining with us in the house, and he's advocating for us around the table. As we finish off tonight, I'm going to just invite us to have a moment of reflection and invite you to pray with me. And you might want to close your eyes. You might want to perhaps put your hands out in front of you as we stand in just a moment and just be in a posture of receiving, recognising the disruption that you've perhaps experienced, that Jesus is actually in the midst, he's in the business of disruption. But the way he does this is really quite life-giving. And so I'm going to invite you to stand with me and we'll pray together. Close your eyes. If you want to, have a posture of just wanting to receive from him tonight, I want to take you to those 3 pictures again that we've talked about. Maybe in your mind's eye you can imagine Jesus' disruption in the midst of compromise. And this moment is perhaps one of confession for you. Or perhaps it's in the house where you're kind of excited to have Jesus there and host, but there's also that sense of second guessing yourself and maybe guilt, maybe shame. And Jesus is telling us tonight that he wants to feast with us in the midst of that. He sees us, he's inviting us into wholeness, into being a part of his story here in this world. And that takes us to the table. Maybe that's the thing that resonates for you tonight. The desire to sit with him and eat with him, to join with others in community, to have that recognizing the risk that comes with this vulnerable spot of following Jesus, but also the intimacy in this vulnerability that we find. And so, God, we ask that you'd speak into our lives. And the uneasiness and the pain of disruption and the frustration that we feel, God, we invite you. We invite you in those moments where we're finding ourselves in compromise, where we're second-guessing ourselves in incongruence. Or just longing for your advocacy in the midst of being attacked maybe. And as we invite you, we say thank you that you are longing to be with us and call us into a life that resembles what it is to actually be human again. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
There's a grace when the heart is under fire. Another way when the walls are closing in. And when I look at the space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fire, standing next to me. There was another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding of how I've been set free? There's a cross that bears no burden, where another died for me. There is another in the fire. All my dead left for dead beneath the waters. I'm no longer a slave to my sin anymore. Should I fall in the space between what remains of me and this reckoning? Either way, I won't bow to the things of this world. And I know that I'll never be alone. There is another in the fire, standing next to me. There is another in the waters, holding back the sea. Should I ever need reminding what power set me free? There's a grave that holds nobody, and that power lives in me. There is another in the fire. Oh, 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 I can see it. I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to him. I can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between wears thin. I can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls cave in. Nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us. There is no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who was and still is and will be through it all. So what makes this space between all the things unseen and this reckoning? 'Cause I know I will never be alone. Oh, I know I will never be alone. There'll be another in the fire, standing next to me. There'll be another in the water. joy from every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. I'll count the joy from every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. I'll count the joy from every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be.
Awesome. As you guys go about your weeks tonight, hope that you remember Levi and Jesus and the uncomfortable situations that Jesus brought Levi into, whether that's at his booth, at his table, or in his house. I hope you join us on Wednesdays for Word Night Wednesdays, Worship Word Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Have a good rest of your week, guys. See you later.